Welcome to Azure Services Deep Dive from Data Analytics Actuary. Each episode, we break down one Azure service completely, what it does, what problems it actually solves, and how it connects to everything else. Today, we're covering the Enterprise Data Lake Foundation, Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2. Before we zoom in, let's set the context. Microsoft Azure runs on more than 200 services across 60-plus regions worldwide. What makes Azure powerful isn't any single service. It's how everything connects. Compute talks to storage, networking integrates with security, and analytics layers over everything. For data professionals and actuaries, Azure is the operational backbone that turns your models and insights into production-grade systems, ones that scale, stay available, and comply with regulatory requirements. Today's service lives in Azure's storage category, the layer that holds your data at rest. Within storage, you have object storage, file shares, message queues, key value tables, and managed disks. Data Lake Storage Gen 2 is blob storage's big data evolution. It adds a hierarchical namespace and POSIX-style access control that analytics engines like Spark and Synapse depend on. It bridges the gap between cheap object storage and enterprise data platforms. Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2, Microsoft's enterprise data lake platform. Gen 2 is built directly on top of blob storage, so you get the same durability, redundancy, and tiering, but with a true hierarchical namespace enabled. This means real directories, atomic renames, POSIX-style access control lists, and an ABFS driver optimized for Hadoop and Spark workloads. It's the storage layer that modern analytics platforms are built on. Let's go deeper. The hierarchical namespace is what makes Gen 2 different from standard blob. In regular blob storage, directories are just naming conventions. A slash in a blob name doesn't create a real directory. Gen 2 gives you actual directory objects with atomic rename operations and fine-grained ACLs. This matters because Spark jobs perform thousands of metadata operations, listing files, renaming output directories, checking permissions at every level. With flat blob namespace, those operations are slow and expensive. With Gen 2's hierarchical namespace, they're constant time. Gen 2 supports multiple access protocols. The standard blob REST API, the Data Lake Store DFS API, and NFS 3.0 for Linux native file access. And it integrates with Azure Purview for automatic data cataloging and governance. Now, the critical problems Gen 2 actually solves, because this is where it gets practical. Problem 1. Enterprise Analytics Lake. Data is scattered across 12 different systems with no unified access layer. Gen 2 provides a single lake with directory-level ACLs per business domain. One platform for all analytics teams. Problem 2. Spark performance. A flat blob namespace causes slow metadata operations on datasets with millions of files. Hierarchical namespace enables atomic directory renames and fast listing. The result: 10 times faster Spark job completion on large datasets. Problem 3. Data governance. A regulatory audit requires knowing who can access what data at directory level. POSIX ACLs combined with Azure Purview provide cataloged, auditable access control. You get a compliance-ready data platform from day one. Problem 4. Lakehouse architecture. You need both batch analytics and real-time serving from the same data. Gen 2 combined with Delta Lake format enables ACID transactions on lake data. Unified batch and streaming on one storage layer. Gen 2 is the center of Azure's analytics ecosystem. Azure Synapse Analytics provides native Lakehouse integration with serverless SQL pools and dedicated Spark pools that read Gen 2 data directly. Azure Databricks mounts Gen 2 via the ABFS driver for Spark notebooks and Delta Lake processing. Azure Data Factory orchestrates data movement and transformation across hundreds of connectors into your lake. Power BI connects directly to Gen 2 data for enterprise dashboards and self-service analytics. Azure Purview catalogs, classifies, and governs data lake assets with automated scanning and lineage tracking. And Azure HD Insight runs Hadoop, Spark, Hive, and HBase on Gen 2 as the default storage layer. Now the honest trade-offs. Hierarchical namespace cannot be disabled once enabled. You need to plan your storage accounts carefully up front. NFS 3.0 protocol support is limited to specific regions and requires a hierarchical namespace-enabled account. There are no native POSIX hard links. Some legacy Linux tools may not work exactly as expected. Access tier management is still per blob, not per directory. You still need lifecycle policies for automatic tiering. And cross-region replication does not preserve ACLs. You must reapply your security configuration after a failover event. To recap, Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2 is the right choice when you're building an enterprise analytics platform that needs real directory semantics, fine-grained access control, and optimized performance for big data engines. For data and actuarial teams, Gen 2 is the foundation of the modern lakehouse, where Spark, Synapse, and Databricks read and write data with the performance and governance that production workloads demand. The trade-off is commitment. Once you enable hierarchical namespace, there's no going back. That was Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2. If you found this useful, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. There's a full series covering every major Azure service. Next up is Azure Files, fully managed cloud file shares that replace your on-premises file servers. I'll see you in the next one.